Well, it's 7:01 and I haven't heard from Sally or Carl, so I think as long as we have a quorum, right, with the four of us? One, two, three. Yeah, that's a quorum. So we can go ahead and get started. I've got the agenda open on my other screen over here, so if as long as everybody has it up, we can just go through it. Oh, there's Sally. Hi, Sally.
Hi.
Now we really have a quorum. Okay. So first item on the well, actually, yeah, let's start the meeting. This is the November 20th, 2024 Bristol Energy Committee meeting. And we will go ahead and get started. The first item on the agenda is citizen comments or concerns. Um, Jim or anybody else have anything to bring up? No? All right. None. There we go. Next item is approving the agenda. Does anybody have any items to add or maybe modify to the agenda? No?
I think we're good.
All right. Okay, and then approval of the October meeting minutes. If nobody has any questions or concerns, I think we can go ahead and approve those with a vote. Say aye, raise your hand. One, two, three, four. Good. All right. So approved. Okay, so now that we've got the administrative business out of the way, I'm gonna turn it over to our guest speaker for this meeting, Carly Jack from All Earth Renewables. Carly, I don't know if you have if you wanted to just introduce yourself or if you had maybe if you wanted you could share your screen if you have anything to present, but don't feel like you have to if you just wanted to kind of say who you are and what All Earth does,
Yeah.
and that'd be great.
I've got a few slides that I put together so we can go through those, but just to start, just to introduce myself, I'm Carly Jack as the introduction stated, and I'm the marketing manager at All Earth Renewables. So I wanted to kind of get a pulse from you guys of like maybe even just a show of hands of how many people have heard of All Earth Renewables. But and maybe prior to me being invited as a guest speaker. Okay, cool. So that is kind of part of my job is trying to get the word out that we're here and talk to people about what we do, and just promote, us as a brand and a company. So that's awesome to hear. We have just moved to Bristol recently. So February of last year, we moved from Williston. So we're still kind of getting established here in Bristol and we're excited to be here. But I know there's a lot of people in town that are like, what is that mysterious red building behind the fire department? And that is us. So yeah, I'll share my screen. I've got a few slides just to talk a little bit more about who we are and what we're doing and, a little bit more about the product as well. So let me just share my screen with you guys and let me know if you can see that. Cool. So So this is us. We like bright, bold red colors. So that is reflected in our building, as I mentioned. So we are one of Vermont's leading solar solutions providers. So we provide solar energy solutions for various different customers across Vermont and also across the country. And we specialize, our main product is a dual axis tracker we call it the All Earth Solar Tracker. And here's a picture of our team in front of our new building. So we've got about like 20, 24 staff. I think in total we're hiring for one role currently, which if you guys have anyone that's interested in a role, check out our website on our careers page because we always like to hire locally. In the past, I think 3 employees that we've had have been local Bristonites or slash Lincoln. I think there's one from Lincoln, but yeah, that's a really big part of who we are is trying to hire locally and trying to keep everything local and community based. Which actually is a good segue into the next slide that I have is we're all about local, homegrown energy. It's all kind of, the whole reason that we exist is to provide renewable energy and local community energy and have that energy be accessible to everyone. So, accessible to all Earth Renewables. That's kind of part of our name. And it's cool because our new building, so when we were previously in Williston for the past 15 years, I believe, we were just leasing a building. And now there's this new building that we've moved into that's 100% net positive. So not only net zero, but we actually create a surplus of energy through, we have solar panels on the roof, we have a tracker, and then we also have a little solar awning carport type thing in the back. So we actually generate more than we need, and then we put that back into the grid. So yeah, that's a pretty exciting thing that, and we also have a bunch of, EV car charging stations and things like that. And so to give you a picture of like how many products we've sold, or how many installs we've done over 8,000 installations of our trackers across the country. But we are primarily focused on, our key market is Vermont. So we know Vermont, we are all about local. We really want to serve the Vermont community the most. But we do have dealers throughout the country, and we have primarily dealers in New England that do the most work with us. But you can see there's quite a lot of trackers out there.
Mhm.
So, and the question always comes up, what exactly is a tracker? I've mentioned it a few times. What actually does this mean? So, the technical term is, it is a grid-tied, ground-mounted, dual-axis solar electric tracking system. That doesn't really tell you a whole lot. That's a big mouthful of words. So in layman's terms, it essentially means you're getting more energy for and greater efficiency for each system as compared to a traditional fixed system or a traditional rooftop. So ground mounted or rooftop fixed system. So that's kind of the advantage that we have. And to put it kind of into some context that you might be familiar with, is it's inspired by nature. So we often use the analogy of a sunflower, but that's essentially what our tracker does. It's the whole technology is inspired by nature, and the way that nature works to follow the sun throughout the day to capture the most amount of energy. So that's essentially what our tracker does. It moves throughout the day, 360 degrees. So dual axis means it goes left to right and up and down to follow the sun throughout the day. So that's essentially how it works. And the benefit of that is that you're capturing the most amount of energy throughout the day. So, and this is a fun little grid. If you're more of a techie kind of person, you can actually see a comparison of our tracking system and the amount of energy it can produce. So the yellow piece is our tracker versus a fixed system is that piece in white. So you're seeing that you're capturing energy even in those kind of shoulder periods in the early morning and the late afternoon, which you can't capture from traditional roof or fixed systems. So yeah, I think that's kind of our competitive advantage. And I will say the other thing, you hear a lot about solar PV panels getting more efficient all the time. And they actually have now come out with something called a bifacial panel, which is where essentially you're getting energy from not just the front of the panel, but actually underneath and the backside as well. So when you think about the advantage that we have, we can actually generate energy from the bottom of the panel as well as the top, which you wouldn't get from like a rooftop system, for instance. So we're seeing that, and I think I have it on this slide, but we're seeing it generates up to 45% more energy than a traditional fixed system on average. But with those bifacial panels, we've even seen up to 50% more. So, you're getting almost twice as much power as you would out of a traditional rooftop system. And so who are our customers? I've kind of talked a little bit about this, but mainly it's Vermonters, New England-based people. It's also kind of connected with where the sun is in the sky and the best kind of the way that the sun does where it is in the sky in different latitudes and things like that. So we find it's the best in New England regions, but also because it's our home and because it's easier for us to kind of test and track things when we have them close by. But we sell these trackers. Who are the actual people and customers that we sell them to? We sell them primarily to homeowners. So that can be, one or two trackers to residential customers, and also businesses. So they might get, a few trackers for their business to power the business. But then we also have this kind of B2B side of the business where we sell to dealers as well as developers who then sell on to other parties. So that's where you can actually see, and I think I have it on the next slide, where we do everything from one or two trackers in people's backyards to whole multi-megawatt solar projects and utility projects. I would say we're not into that kind of huge scale level of, these huge farms and things. We have a couple of those, but we're our kind of sweet spot is in that middle ground, like 150 kilowatt size projects. So I'll show you a picture of what I'm talking about. So there's a picture of one of our tracker fields. I think this is one of our ones in South Burlington. And then you can see to the left, this is what the actual tracker looks like. So yeah, so we do a whole range of projects. And what's nice about our product is that it's very scalable. So we have everything. And when we do a tour, so when you guys come and tour our facility, you can actually see how these are built, and we build them specifically so that they can be palletized onto a single pallet. So everything's just loaded up. All the parts that you need are loaded up onto a single pallet that can then just be schlepped onto a truck, and away we go. So that makes it really easy for our individual projects where we do the installations in Vermont, but then also for our dealers, when dealers are buying, multiple at once, they can just load them up and go. So yeah. The next slide. So some of the benefits of our tracker is cost effective. This kind of goes just in general with solar. So as you see energy rates and your energy bills going up, you're going to be able to flatline that by going solar. So you're hedging against that future inflation that we might see from the energy prices rising. No roof required. So talking about that, we talked about some of the efficiency reasons, but the big also another big reason of why you might not want to put solar on your roof is you have the risk of damage and mold and things happening to your roof that you might not want. You might also have an older roof that you might just not want to spend the money to replace or do that whole pre-work to get it ready for solar. We also see people that have heritage buildings or things that don't really work for putting it on the roof. We also some people don't have the right facing roof to be able to put it on the roof. So there's a lot of reasons why people come to us when they just don't want to do the roof option. So we're kind of an alternate option to that, which is quite nice. And if you have land that you can put a tracker on it, it's a great option for that. So, and then also it is space efficient. So even though you do have to have some land, I think a fun fact to just consider is you only really, need, so you can put up to 16 trackers on 1 acre of land. So you don't need that much land. You actually can make it work with a limited amount of land, and still make the most of your yard space. And you can also put them pretty much anywhere. We have a few different base options. So you have different options that work on different types of terrains, which is really nice. So you can put them, we've done on like the side of ledges and, in swamps and stuff. And it's actually worked out really well. So we have options for that. And I think that might have been, oh no, here's my last slide. So yeah, I always love sharing this slide. This is we get a lot of farmers and agricultural people that like the using, have been purchasing our trackers, and we have a nice shot of someone mowing their lawn under it. So you can definitely still mow under it. You can put gardens, you can plant flowers, you can do all sorts of things under the tracker. And they're also very animal friendly. So we have a local goat farm. I think this is Big Picture Farm. I don't know if you guys have heard of that farm, but yeah, they have a ton of goats that just love the trackers. It doesn't get in their way, and they can still, graze around them. You often see with like fixed systems, they tend to like fence them in, and so they kind of don't let anyone near them. But with the trackers, it's not a problem. So that's another just added bonus. So I think that was the slides I've compiled for today. But yeah, if you guys have any questions on anything, and the only other thing I was going to say is which I think I mentioned to you, Allison, is I'm hoping to do an open house at some point, just to open it up to the community so you guys can actually see the whole manufacturing facility and see what goes into making the trackers, because it's pretty cool. I think it's a very unique thing, and we definitely pride ourselves. We are very much an engineering and manufacturing based company. Our CEO is an engineer by trade, and it's just, we embrace all the lean methodologies and things. So it's really cool. I think yeah, we're very much a manufacturing company, which is also quite different from some of the other solar providers in Vermont. A lot of them are just installers. We actually have a product that we manufacture locally on site. So yeah, I'll open it up to questions if you guys have any thoughts or questions for me.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Hi, Carly. Um,
Hi.
are the panels, you mentioned the bifacial panels, are the panels something you get from somebody else? You don't manufacture panels,
Yeah,
correct?
that's a really good question. So yeah, we do not manufacture the actual panels. We just manufacture the physical tracking system and the whole yeah, the tracker itself. But panels, we tend to just get, because panels are always changing all of the time, we have ones that we prefer to put on. And majority of those panels, I know we would love to be able to say that our product is 100% locally sourced, but the panels do come from Asia, where, I'd say pretty much 100% of all panels come from either China or that area. So yeah, until we get some local manufacturers of solar panels, we do still source them externally.
The other quick question I had is about I think you mentioned the grid connected
Yes.
systems, but do you do also independent non-grid connected systems as well?
We actually do not. So it's very much, yes, our kind of just philosophy that we just focus on grid tied, just because it's the most reliable. You can just connect. It's quite easy. So we don't do off grid, but it is something that I personally get a lot of questions about, and I know there's a lot of interest in it. So I would love to see us look into how we can do off grid ones. But for right now, we just do the grid tied systems. Yeah, good question. Anybody else have any questions?
Oh, look at Jim.
Oh, I
He's
love
got
got his
it.
he's
shirt.
your
You must have gone to one of our events. Awesome. That's really good. And yeah, I will just say a plug for, like, I mean, I didn't mention our CEO owner too much, but if you've heard of David Blittersdorf, and you guys might have already heard the story, but he actually started the company NRG Systems, which is in Heinsberg, and they're a wind company. So he has a really long history in wind. Like, he grew up building wind turbines, and he started his company NRG, the inklings of it, on his house that he was living with his then partner on North Street in Bristol. So he fell in love with Bristol, and he outgrew that garage that he was working out of at his house, and they started NRG. But he had always wanted to come back to Bristol, and I think it's just very near and dear to his heart. He's very attached to the community, and he's doing all these other kind of side projects in the community and stuff. So it's a cool full story thing. And I mean, he even is just really happy, because I know a lot of businesses kind of outgrow Bristol and they get too big and then they have to go somewhere else. So he's really happy to be able to have left but have now come back. So yeah, I think hopefully you'll hear more about us and what he's been up to more and more. So yeah, cool. Well, thanks for giving me the time to. Oh yeah, did you have a question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about your EV chargers.
Yes.
They're not solar chargers necessarily. I mean, they're from
Yes.
solar, and you have a charger that you can
Yeah, so we have
Use up
two,
your-
yeah, we have two, I think, level 2 chargers that are on site for staff to use, and they're hooked up. And again, I will preface to say I'm not the engineer technical kind of person, so to know how exactly it works, but I think it's just connected to the building, which is then powered by solar. So yeah, that's something that, we have offered just as part of, our whole company being
Yeah.
a little bit more green and efficient. And I know David, the owner, he would love to just get rid of all the car parks and have everyone just, take the bus and bike to
Yeah.
work, but we still have some options, and he wants, to have that be an option. And we have a few fleet vehicles that are electric as well.
That's great.
But I know you guys were looking into, I know there was mention of like how you guys could do charging stations open to the public, which I think would be amazing. And I did mention this to David, and he was thinking just getting fast chargers would be maybe the way to go. But I'm sure if you guys were looking into that, we could get, set up a time to talk to him, because he's kind of the expert in the EV chargers and things like that. So yeah.
We looked into SolarFlect for those
Oh
because they
yeah, I've
can just
seen
be brought.
those.
Have you guys talked to them about that, or you guys, is that like a competitive thing, or I don't know what it is?
No, I mean they are, like they are kind of a competitor in the way that they are another solar company that does trackers. We haven't looked into that extensively, but yeah, I think that's not something that we would necessarily, we don't have that offering. But I think, there's definitely ways that we could potentially support you guys if you were to look into doing something like that.
Yeah, I was thinking about Bristol Works or your place or something if
Yeah.
you want one there, but
Oh, I know.
just
It'd just
something
be
we
so
thought of.
great to have,
Yeah,
a charging place in that area.
yeah,
So I
we'll
know.
see.
Yeah. I think that would be amazing. So would love to see you guys spearhead that in just any way that we could help. And I think,
Great.
David has a lot of knowledge, just having his own EV and driving all across the country with his EV. So he's very much a fan of the superchargers and just,
Yeah,
more accessibility to charging stations.
yeah, it's great.
We have
Cool.
a,
Another question?
yeah,
Yep.
we, we have an application in, for level 3 chargers.
Oh,
And
nice.
as is typically the case, we've been waiting for months and months to get word from Green Mountain Power about whether or not we're going to be one of the towns that is selected. So
Okay.
we'll have to see what happens. But I think it'd be very interesting to talk to David.
Yeah, I think like
Some
even
other
just me
route.
briefly, even me briefly mentioning it to him, he had a lot of ideas. So I feel like if we just got together and he could talk to you guys and give some recommendations, that might be helpful. But would that be something like, is that a grant so you guys wouldn't have to pay for it at all, or would you still have to pay some money up front?
It's a state grant. In this particular case, the level 3s, it's competitive with other towns, and what they're trying to do is set up radiuses um, beyond which there are no available chargers. And we're in one of those dead areas, and so we technically qualify. But the
Yeah,
question is, there are a lot of those dead areas. So, and
right.
the funding, as I understand it, is somewhere around um, about $1.5 million. So it's not going to go very far. So
Yeah,
I think we really ought to sit down with David and explore options.
I think so too. And I'll mention this to him again. So yeah, let's follow up on that for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I would envision if I was selling these to a homeowner, the more complicated something is, the more prone it is to break down. And so if a homeowner has that argument, how does your company respond to that?
So I first, I mean, it's actually a good segue into, we were just talking about EVs, but I always say cars have moving parts. We don't, it's like, that's my comparison that I use. You get a lot of benefit from a lot of things that we use have using moving parts. That does mean that there's a little bit added risk involved in things breaking down. So you're always going to kind of weigh those risks out in your head. But I think, that being said, we have customers that have had trackers for 15 plus years. We have done continuous improvement of our trackers. We're always looking at ways. And like I alluded to, we are very much a fan of lean manufacturing. So whenever something breaks down, we have a process and a system and a way that we respond to those things. So we are about continuous development, but on the same track, we also have a full O&M team, so operations and maintenance, essentially a servicing team that goes out and does inspections on our tracker. They do, any fixes, anything that needs to be resolved. We have support teams and people that go out and fix our trackers if anything does come up. But we also tell people, there's, when you buy a tracker, there's really nothing that you have to do in terms of maintenance. So it's very low. It's a very low maintenance system. If you do find, like, sometimes there will be communication issues. Like, I think that's literally our number one issue, is sometimes the communication will not be working with the Wi-Fi and things like that. And that's a very easy fix on our end. So if things do arise, you'll know, and you'll see that the tracker is flat or whatnot, or you'll look at your production data and something might be a little bit funny. So that's when we even can see on our end, we have all that production information, and sometimes we can even see it before customers can see it, and we can go out and fix it. So I always think, like, yes, there is the moving parts concern, but I think also you have to weigh out the benefits of getting the amount of energy increase and all of those benefits that I explained. So yeah, very good question though.
The other question that I have is about
Oh yeah.
cost. So if you compared the cost of the tracker versus the cost of a fixed
Yeah.
solar panel, what would that look like? Like a
So
graph, a graph of, you got 45% more.
Yes.
How much do you pay for that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I will say, it's hard to answer the cost thing specifically, because we have a bunch of different models and variations, and, different companies are going to quote different things. But from my sales team, from what I hear from the sales team, and this is something we're actually debating whether we even do, is just put our pricing right up front on the website, which I would love, is we're very competitive. We're very affordable compared to the other options. And I think we have this kind of, what's the word for it? Like, people assume that trackers are more expensive, and we've actually seen that we've out competed a lot of our competitors when they are getting quotes from other people. So it's not that big of a jump when you're trying to compare options. So yeah, I think that's the way I'll put it. But definitely, get a few quotes. We always recommend get quotes from other people and make that decision yourself and weigh out those benefits.
Thank you.
Yeah. A few other questions I saw.
Well, one is, it's kind of just an interesting thing I've seen when bicycling over the past few years. This one place in Bristol has a bunch of trackers, like what yours looks like. I don't know if they're yours or not, but and it seemed like every year there are a few more that they're not all going the same way. Some are looking this way, that way, some are flat. And I've just been wondering, is it sort of like when something goes wrong, if it stays in one position, does it take less energy? So it's like, oh, well, maybe we'll just leave it that's the afternoon one. And we'll just let the morning ones do the morning and the flat one does the midday. Or is it just plain some are not working anymore at all? Or are they still receiving? I mean, what goes on when you see a field that's in all different
that's a
directions?
very good question, and something that we notice, like I've even noticed that as well. So this is something that basically the root of the problem is there was a point in time where we sold some of those projects. So it's usually the ones that you see are like larger scale projects that were then sold to other companies like developers or things like that. And when they were sold, they did not opt to do O&M servicing of those trackers. So we are not basically, we don't have any visibility of those trackers anymore. So that is the problem. And we are actually in the process of trying to resolve those, where we're trying to, essentially even just buy back some of those projects so that we can have the control. And a lot of them are, so to answer your question, a lot of them just have issues that nobody's been attending to those issues. So that's why they're looking all wonky and in different directions. The ones that we maintain are always going to be looking good because we have the systems to maintain them. It's just when and then I guess the other piece is if they don't have communication. So some residential customers just might not have, Wi-Fi, or they might just be far out. Like some of the trackers that we have are not, like, they're really far away from the actual building where the internet connection is. So we don't have as good visibility on when things are wrong. So then we're not catching them until we do our kind of annual inspections. And I mean, or if usually customers can just look out the window and tell us if they, have a problem if we don't catch it. But yeah, so it's either communications or it's the ones that we no longer maintain that kind of servicing of, which we're in the process of trying to sort those ones out, because yeah, it's not great when you're, seeing them all in different directions, for sure. Cool. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Yeah, I really appreciate taking the time. Oh, one more last
No,
question,
just
or
saying,
no? Okay.
I
thank
was
you.
just gonna say, yeah, I was just gonna say thank
Thanks,
you.
Carly. We appreciate
Yeah,
your time.
thanks so
Thanks
much.
so much.
Yeah,
Thanks for
and
joining
thank you
us.
guys for the great work that you're doing. And yeah, just let us know if we can help in any way, just energy related, solar related. I know Ben from, working with Courtney on Bristol Core, we're just super excited to be involved in that kind of stuff. So yeah, hopefully I see more of you guys.
Great.
Thanks
All
for your time,
right.
Carly.
Thanks. Bye. See
Bye.
you.
Okay.
Bye.
Right. Okay. That was great. Richard, I'll follow up with Carly about the EV charging and see if we can get a meeting with David to see about just keeping that conversation going, or, whatever, just to see where it goes, if nothing else. So
I know he has some interesting solutions. A good friend of mine is good friends, particularly with David's partner, Beth Sachs, and he mentioned that we were trying to figure something out at our church, and we've been going through this grant process. And David said, "Well, if it doesn't work out, we can probably do something real quick and easy for you." So I think he's got some pretty good ideas.
yeah. Okay. Well, that's a nice segue, I guess, into our next agenda item, which I don't think will take very long, but which is the update on the EV charging station. I feel like there's no update, right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, we go past that one. The next agenda item is update on MERP. So I saw a lot of email traffic, and I think Allison might have a update for us, right?
Yep.
Allison?
So I think you guys all probably know David sent out the award. So we were awarded, or we have been awarded $325,853.52, which is some less than what we applied for, but we have verified with Adam Luigi from the Addison County Regional Planning Commission that is the amount we were awarded. We believe that they awarded MERP grants to about 100 towns in Vermont. So we believe that they just they took the money they had and they looked at all their proposals and they decreased some, to get money to more people. So that is the amount. We met this morning just to kind of talk about next steps. So met with Ian, Val, and Frida and myself. And we talked about what we think the next step should be. So the first thing we did, and we got it done today, is David had been named the grantee on here, and we didn't want David to be saddled with that. So we were able to get that changed to Frida. So Frida has been, the document's been changed. Frida's now the grantee, in her role as the town grant administrator. And she executed the grant and sent it to me. So I just need to touch base with Ian to see if we're just good to send it back to the state. So they've signed off on that. So that's the first couple things. Then we also decided that we needed to kind of get together and just to talk about, define this, now that the money is a little bit less, define the scope and kind of dig deeper into the details. So I reached out to Asher Nelson, who was the architectural consultant that we worked with to get, David worked extensively with him to get the grant put together. So our thoughts were that we would reach out to him to see if he'd be willing to have just a, 1 or 2 hour meeting just to kind of go through the details. And so that we can kind of map out next steps, just kind of see where we're at. What do we need to do? What's the best thing to do? All that kind of stuff. So as soon as we hear back from him, David will, we figured it would be you, myself, Val, Ian, Meredith, and Frida meeting with Asher just to kind of, walk through, what's next. And Ian also suggested that he would get Matt Sharp involved because Matt's working with them on the library grant. So we thought that we might be able to get some efficiencies if we kind of looked at the two grants together. If we're both doing, contracting with, weatherization to get weatherization done or contracting to do certain things, it might make sense to kind of see what we can do to combine some of that stuff. So we just kind of want to talk through what the next steps are. So hopefully we'll hear back from Asher soon. And, we'll talk through what our next steps might be. And then we also are on the agenda for December 2nd with the select board, just to kind of let them know what's going on. So, at this point, there's really nothing we need from them. We just want to kind of make sure we keep them in the loop. So David, if you're free, I told Ian that you, I, or both of us would try to make that meeting just to be a face. I don't know how much of you know, but how much of you all know, but Val is leaving she's retiring December 20th, and Ian's going to be the interim town administrator. So,
oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he's stepping up to do that. So, yeah. And then the other question that I kind of asked was, how are we going to manage this? How are they going to manage this project? And, that's kind of part of what we want to talk to, Asher about, and, Ian needs to think about. So, so that's kind of where we're at. Excited to have gotten the money we have gotten. And I think the period of performance is, December 16th of 24 through December 31st of 2026. That might seem like a lot of time, but in reality, that goes by really fast. And so we got to get on it and get going and figure out what we're going to do. So,
how does the money flow? Does the town receive that grant, or?
I think so.
So
I'm not 100% sure. I need to read a little bit more about that, but I'm not sure about that. David, do you know?
Yeah, I remember that. I think there are these allocations that happen. You have to apply for them like a normal construction project. But I know that something was sent out about it. I think there was a question by the town, but I have to review that, see if that's the case. I don't think it's a block grant that comes to the town and they put that in the bank. Kind of
I do remember that it's something about allocated over time.
Yeah. And
they want to know what's going to go on with the project so that they can know when to send things, when's appropriate, something like that.
And one thing that we learned today that Ian and Val seemed to be pretty excited about is I think when we applied for this, we had to be pretty specific about what we were planning to do. And BGS was going to be pretty picky about, making sure that you stuck to what you said you were going to do. But given that they've given us less money, they're not going to hold our feet to the fire, obviously, when we change the project, because clearly we don't have the money that we thought we would have. So they seemed, they seemed pretty excited that we wouldn't be held accountable to do exactly what we asked for because we aren't been given all the money.
I think it will be, oh, go ahead.
I just wondered if you have any sense of how much can we actually do of the project?
Ian and Val still seem to think that the capital building fund for the town is pretty healthy. They said that the capital building fund is over 200,000 and they add to it, pretty regularly. One of the things that they talked about was potentially using the grant from BGS in the time frame that is, the award time. So the 16th of December of this year till the end of 2026. And then perhaps if there's some of the work that can be pushed out a little using town money to do that. So, I think there's a lot of different options, but they didn't seem totally, they were pretty certain that we would be able to use some of the capital money. But
Great.
we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But no.
If I recall, Valerie said there was a certain amount that this was decided, I guess, a while ago, how much it would be per year that the town would add to the fund, and it's not like voted on every year or anything like that. I think
right.
It's been determined as a certain percentage or a certain amount that gets added. So I think they're relying on that for the next 2 years, that amount that they know that they're going to get that. And so they're not.
Yeah, I think that got approved at town meeting or something.
What was that? I'm sorry.
I think it got approved at town meeting, the amount of money that they would allocate
I
that
think
fund.
the allocation is voted on every year. I think that's part of the budget process, right? And then at town meeting, it's whatever number it is, and we all vote on. It's like one of the articles, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll keep everybody up to date with what goes on with that. So pretty exciting stuff.
Nice work.
Yeah, I think we should all. I think the big players should all feel very proud of themselves for getting this thing done and getting it across the line. And that was very good.
Fantastic.
I mean, the inertia of this group is impressive to me. I mean, we're just all people who live here, and just there's enough. It was good. It's really good, and I think that the fun part starts now, right? Is actually doing it. So that'll be great.
It's really neat to get some good news right now.
Yeah, definitely.
That's true.
I was on a call with Jane Stromberg from VPIRG. We're getting ready for Faith Climate Action Day in February. And I was asking what their priorities are. And essentially, the renewable energy standard or the clean heat standard is probably dead.
Really?
And they're going to be concentrating this year, she thinks, on transportation issues, which would include busing, bicycling, that kind of thing. And very interestingly, beginning to look at offshore wind, investing the state investing in that possibly. But most of the attention is going to be on necessarily the tax and school and healthcare costs and how to rein them in somehow. So we'll be in a bit of a holding pattern, I think. It's good that these MERT grants came out when they did.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Speaking of the MERP grants, we had the small MERP that we talked to the select board about and talked amongst ourselves. And I'm not sure if that money ever did, what happened to that 4,000? The Bristol Energy Committee. We talked about doing the Navigator project, but I don't think we went there because we're not on that list.
Right.
At the Navigator project, we're not part of that. So we haven't used it and we still have an opportunity to use it. Is that where we're at?
My understanding is it was left in the town's hands. I don't know if they applied for it or not. We should
I can
find out.
follow up. I could follow up with Ian and Val on that.
I meant to do that, but I just didn't get to it before this meeting. And then I realized, oh goodness, I haven't figured that out. So were they going to apply or not apply? Was there a point where the select board agreed that we could do that? Or
No,
that's what we did? No, okay, so
I don't think
so they're just thinking about what could be done with it, or what's the deal, I think?
I'm not sure it's even viable anymore.
Oh, okay.
You know, that it's period, but I think, yeah, see what, you know, what we can find out.
Yeah, I'll send them a note right now
Yeah.
and copy you all.
Okay.
Thanks for doing that, Allison.
No worries.
I kind of fell by the wayside, forgot about it, till I came across a note yesterday about it.
Okay, I think that covers the MERP agenda item. The next item on the agenda was just a follow-up on the Efficiency Vermont, which really wasn't a sanctioned Efficiency Vermont, but we're calling it the Efficiency Vermont workshop that was
Mhm.
at Howden Hall last week. I don't remember what day it was. It was a good turnout. I mean, I thought it was like there was like 12 to maybe
That's
15
great.
people. And go ahead, Sally.
Oh yeah, no, you were right. Yeah, it was like 12 to 14 people were there as to learn, and then there were those of us who were kind of supporting the scene. Yeah, it was a great event. You know, Matt is so smart with this stuff and so helpful, you know, and he does a really good job. And a lot of people asked questions and got some answers and got some encouragement to, you know, look into their work that they need doing. I think people really liked it, you know.
I
It was
agree.
a
I thought it was good. It was a good community event to kind of show people like, hey, there's this funding is out there. These rebates are out there. You know, it's not a matter of what does it exist or not. It's how to just, you know, how to do it. How do you qualify? How does your renter, if you rent to someone, qualify? You know, those sorts of things. That minutia, learning about that was really helpful. And yeah, and it was also, I think, Richard, you had coordinated it getting recorded. That and Neat TV was there, and they recorded it, and that was, you know, so it's a good reference point as well for the future. And yeah, it was good. And Matt did build that what is it, air
air
purifier?
purifier. Yeah.
That was kind of fun to watch too. So
Right.
that was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, the woman who so they had a raffle, you know, and or a not a raffle, but you know, they drew names, and this woman who got it, she ended up giving it to somebody else because she said, I don't know how I could use it. So it's basically like a box made out of air filters, and you stick
Yeah.
it on a fan. Yes, it was interesting. I was just going to mention also too that I thought Matt, I mean, and maybe someone else said something similar to this, that he did a great presentation, but also, you know, some people were asking very specific questions about their particular situation, and he was just
Yeah.
very good at you know, kind of taking some time to clarify the program for them. I mean, it was a small enough group, so that, you know, it wasn't like 100 people that, you know, everyone would have a different question or a different situation. So I thought he did a really good job with that sort of person-to-person interaction. So I thought it was really well done. He did a great job.
Mhm.
Great.
Yeah.
I wish I
He's,
could have been there.
yeah, he's done, a number of really good presentations in Bristol over the years for weatherization, and we're lucky to have him in town, and so glad he's going to be helping out with the bigger projects of Holly Hall and library. I mean, I think, yeah, we should tap him whenever he feels like he wants to do something in town, 'cause
Mhm.
So
he's,
I understand he was on the energy committee at one time.
yeah,
Is that right? Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe he'll come back.
Okay, so thanks, Richard, again for setting that up. Again, good. And this group has a lot of good inertia, and I think that type of thing, just finding the time to get it set up, and then it kind of grows arms and legs, and then it ends up being a really great thing. So, thanks for getting that set up.
Sure.
The next and final agenda item is an agenda item that's been around for a while. I honestly don't know where this stands, and I probably should have looked into the history of it a little bit better. But bylaws for the select board. I know we had gone back and forth several times. I'm not sure where that stands.
They're all set to go
Okay.
and modified and so on. And frankly, things have been a little bit sketchy around my house, so
Yeah.
I haven't pushed it, but I'll try to get it off after Thanksgiving to the select board, and then they can invite us into
Whoever. Yeah.
whenever.
Okay.
Thanks, Richard. Richard, do you need any kind of support in what you're doing, or should I talk to you about that some other place than right now? Just sounds like you've had a lot of tough time.
Well, um, yeah, we've had some medical issues, and um, basically, I'm needing to do a lot more at home, but things are okay.
Okay,
We're adapting.
yeah,
We got my wife has mobility problems that don't seem to be getting much better. And we thought it was going to get a whole lot worse several months ago. In fact, it did. And scared the hell out of me in terms of our house and living. And I just want to relate to you kind of a funny thing. You've all seen these stair lifts. If you get AARP, those of you who are at that point, the Acorn stair lift. So I called Acorn on a Monday, and when I called, before I called, I said to Gail, what's our budget limit on this thing? And we decided on that. And so I called Acorn, and I told them that we were interested. And they asked a couple of questions. Are your stairs straight? That kind of thing. How many steps? And then they quoted me a price, which is half of what we thought it might be. And then this is what blew my mind. They're in Florida. The installer lives in Barnegat, New Jersey. And they said, would you like it tomorrow?
That's awesome.
I couldn't believe it. And so we said, no, you don't have to do it tomorrow, but Wednesday would be nice. And
That's
and
sort of the opposite way I thought it was going to go.
and the guy showed up, and they installed this thing, and it works like a charm. And Gail is happier than heck that you don't zip up and down the steps, but you travel in regal style.
That's
And,
awesome. I love it.
That's great. That's
so
great.
so
And
great.
it's funny, our neighbor Eva across the street saw the truck, and the minute she saw us, she came running over because she's been worried. She's a single woman and has a stairway somewhat like ours. It's narrow. And so she came in and saw the thing and was greatly reassured that it would work in her house too. So If anybody wants a stair lift, I recommend Acorn.
No.
That's awesome.
Is that Acorn Energy Co-op? You mean?
No.
Okay. All different Acorn.
It's a brand,
Oh, that's terrible.
nationwide. By the way, the other thing is, if you know anybody looking for a good job, one reason why the guy came up from New Jersey, he said, is that they can't find workers, installers. They're dying to hire. So enough of that.
Well, that is the last select board or the bylaws is the last agenda item. Does anybody have anything else? Or are we good? We can adjourn.
I'm kind of worried that Carl's refrigerator is going to fall over with all those things on it.
Yeah.
It looks like ours.
That's why I'm wearing the hat, just in case. It's my safety hat.
Good move.
It saved me from a lot of concussions in the past. All right, my friends, great to see you.
Thanks
Yeah.
everybody for your time. I'll send out the meeting notes, and if anybody has any clarifications, just let me know.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much, Ben.
Thanks, everybody.
Ben.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everybody.